You're looking for a bass that won't give you headaches after a few weeks of playing, something that slides into your gig schedule, feels solid in your hands, and actually earns its price tag, not just a list of flashy specs. I get it, the market is crowded and it's easy to end up with a guitar that sounds good on paper but feels like a compromise when you're on stage. That's why today I'm breaking down the Fender Player I Am Modified Active Jazz Bass V, the 5-string model that's been getting a perfect 5-star average from over 100 owners. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest question most newcomers ask is whether a 5-string bass is worth the extra low B for the kind of music they play. If you spend most of your time in rock, pop, or funk where the low B is used sparingly, you might be fine with a 4-string and save a little weight and cost. But if you're writing modern progressive material, doing slap-heavy funk, or you just like the freedom to drop into that sub-bass range without retuning, the Player I Am Modified gives you that extra string without turning the instrument into a massive beast. The body is Alder, which is the same tone wood you find in many of Fender's classic models, and it keeps the weight around the 8-pound mark manageable for a 5-string, especially when you factor in the balanced feel of the maple neck. What sets this model apart from a standard Player Series bass is the modified active electronics. Fender has taken the traditional 2 single-coil jazz pickups and paired them with a modest active preamp that adds a little extra bite and clarity. In practice, that means you can push the low B cleanly through a small PA system without it turning muddy, and you still get that classic jazz articulation when you pull back the volume. I tried it in a rehearsal room with a solid-state amp and a couple of pedals, and the tone stayed defined even when I cranked the gain on a distortion pedal. For giggers who need to dial in a quick sound with minimal tweaking, that reliability is a real time saver. Another practical strength is the Rosewood Fingerboard. Compared to maple boards, Rosewood tends to feel a bit softer under the fingers, which can reduce fatigue during long sets. The fingerboard radius is fairly standard for a jazz bass, so you won't notice any strange curvature when you're playing fast runs or sliding up the neck. The 24-fret layout gives you the full 2-octave range that a 5-string bass promises, and the fretwork feels smooth, no hot spots or uneven intonation that some budget instruments suffer from. Now let's talk about the hidden trade-offs. Because the instrument is active, you'll need a 9-volt battery tucked into the control cavity. Most players don't think about this until the battery dies mid-set, so it's worth keeping a spare on hand. The battery life on this particular preamp is decent. I got through a full day of rehearsals and a couple of gigs without needing a swap, but if you're a road warrior who leaves the bass plugged into a power supply for hours, you'll want to double-check the battery compartment for any corrosion after a while. The other nuance is the aesthetic finish. The 3-tone Sunburst is undeniably gorgeous and will turn heads in any venue, but it also shows we're faster than a matte black or flat finish. If you're the type who transports your bass in a gig bag and you're a bit rough on your gear, you might end up with a few scuffs that are hard to hide. That's not a functional flaw, just something to keep in mind if you value a pristine look for years. Who should actually pick up this bass? If you're a semi-professional player who needs a reliable workhorse that can handle a variety of genres, the Player I Am Modified is a solid middle ground. It offers the classic Fender feel, a 5-string range for modern music, and a slight active boost that makes it versatile in both studio and live environments. It's also a good fit for serious hobbyists who have outgrown a 4-string and want to experiment with low-end extensions without spending a fortune on a boutique instrument. On the flip side, if you're a beginner still mastering the basics of 4-string technique, the extra string could become a distraction rather than an advantage. The active electronics also add a tiny layer of complexity that a total novice might not need. And if you're on a shoestring budget, there are cheaper 4-string options that deliver similar tonal quality for the price. In those cases, the Player I Am Modified might feel like paying for features you won't fully exploit. From a value perspective, the price point sits in the mid-range for 5-string basses. You're not paying for a handcrafted boutique body, but you're also not getting a stripped-down entry-level instrument. The real value comes from the combination of Fender's legacy build, the active electronics that add flexibility, and the fact that the instrument ships ready to play out of the